Alright, this is the video lesson for lesson 1-2 of Algebra 1. We're going to talk about slope-intercept form. Now, we talked about the fact that some forms give you advantages in certain situations. And definitely, slope-intercept helps you when you need to graph. So it gives you an equation of y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept, and that allows you to graph things quite quickly, given that it's in the y equals mx plus b form. So let's take a look at this first example. It says write the slope-intercept form, okay, that's very specific here, of the equation that tells us the slope and the y-intercept. So slope would be the m, y-intercept would be the b, and we would put them into this equation. So that would be y equals negative 2/3 x and then minus 2 because the b is negative. Now it's important to kind of consider one thing. If I give you a negative 2/3, I could write that as negative 2 over 3, or I could write it as 2 over negative 3, and that affects if it rises upward or downward or runs right and left. This one would go down 2 to the right 3. This one would go up 2 to the left 3. Either way, you're going to get the same looking line. However, do not make the mistake and go negative 2 over negative 3, because that is actually a positive 2/3. I would go down 2 to the left 3, and now my line's going in the wrong direction. So we do not want to do that. Alright, next question, next example is to write the equation, the slope-intercept form of the lines given. So if we take a look at this, we see first of all y-intercept. If I go up 1 to the left 1, I'm back on the line. The line goes through a crosshair there. So that would be y equals, so the slope is up 1, that's positive, to the left 1, that's a negative direction, so it's a negative 1 over 1, or a 1 over negative 1, or just negative 1. Either one you want to write, that's all good. And I would say x, because the slope goes with x, and then I'd write the y-intercept, negative 2. And all of these would be the same. And some would even just write negative x minus 2. That is also acceptable. On the next one, we have a y-intercept of 0. I go up 1, but if I go up 1 and over, I'm not back on a crosshair. So I got to go up 2, and I check that. Still not on a crosshair. Up 3, nope. Up 4, still not on a crosshair. Up 5, now I'm back on the crosshair. So I went up 5 to the right 3. So y equals the slope of 5/3, rise over run. Now the y-intercept was 0, so I can go plus 0, or I can just write the equation without the 0. Now these are some very nice instructions here to follow. It sums it up quite nicely. But there's basically three things that can happen. You can have just a regular slope-intercept method of graphing, where it's going to look like y equals mx plus b. You have two variables, x and y. You have a slope, you have a y-intercept. Now, special cases is where two other things could happen. You could have a horizontal line, which looks like that, or a vertical line, which looks like that. Now each have their own qualities, but you have to really look at this to understand why you would give the equation for a horizontal line that you give, and why do the vertical lines have a special equation. Once you get that figured out, we're pretty good. But there's two really characteristics you have to consider. First of all, if it's horizontal, is it x equals or y equals? And then you have to think about slope. So this, again, like I said before, it sums it up quite nicely. If it's horizontal, you have an equation y equals something. For example, y equals 5. That's one example. And the slope is 0. Okay? So if I have an xy, if I have a graph like this, a horizontal line would look like this. Why do they call it x equals or y equals? Because any point on here, let's say it goes up 1, 2, let's say that's 3. Any point on this line, so for example, this coordinate is 0, 3. If I said that's 1 and I go that point is 1, 3. Now every point you pick on here, the y's are always going to be 3. So we say y is always equal to 3. That's one of the reasons why we would call or label a horizontal line y equals 3 or y equals. The flat surface like this tells us that the slope is 0. If you like to ski, well, you like to ski the slopes. Slopes go down or up, however you look at it, but you have change. This one doesn't change. The rise is 0, it never goes up or down, and the run can be whatever you want it to be. So 0 divided by anything is 0. Except for 0, of course, but it always changes right to left. Vertical lines, as mentioned before, have their own specific equation, and that's x equals. In this case, x equals -2. But now we say the slope is undefined. So again, if I graph a line, and I graph a vertical line, the question is, what are the coordinates on that point? Well, if I say this point here, let's say it goes 1, 2. So this point right here is 2, 0. This point here is 2, 1, and so on. Any point on here will always have an x value of 2, so therefore you would say that the equation is x equals 2. It never changes. And if you look at this line, now again, this is a vertical line. Now if you talk about skiing again, you can't ski that either, but some people do try and ski extreme skiing and go off cliffs like that. We would definitely call those kinds of people undefined. They are one of a kind. Alright, let's take a look at this then and let's write down the certain pieces that we know. So, again, key things. Slope, y-intercept. Slope, y-intercept. Slope is -4/3. Y-intercept is -3. Over here the slope is 3 and the y-intercept is -1. Remember to take the signs with the number. If we graphed it, y-intercept is -3. Slope is -4/3, so down 4 to the right 3, and that's our line. Again, we only need 2 points to graph, and we're good. Next one, we have a y-intercept of -1, a slope of 3, so up 3 to the right 1. And there you go, graphed. If we look at the special cases, we're talking about y equals, so remember we talked about this, y equals means it's intersecting the y-axis, so it's going to be horizontal. So horizontal lines, the slope is 0. Y-intercept is wherever it crosses the y-axis. So in this case it's at -5. So we go down here, -5 is the y-intercept, and the slope is 0. Next one, x equals. We talked about that. X equals means it intersects the x-axis only. Alright, so what's the slope? We mentioned this. It is undefined. Okay, however you want to write it. Y-intercept, well, the vertical line never crosses the y-axis, so we would say in this case none. So we graph that, and it was x equals 3, so find 3 on the x-axis, and there you go. Vertical line. And this ends the lesson for 1, 2.